Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to Iron Anchor Cycles. So today's video is going to be a step-by-step how to install video on the Bung King bagger crash bar for 2017 and up M8 models. This is not a new product and one we've done before, but actually I haven't installed one of these in a while and I couldn't remember myself exactly what the order of operations was for putting this crash bar on, and so I just grabbed my phone and did a quick search to see if I could find an install video, because there's no instructions that come with really anything from Bung King. And I realized there's really no install videos on this. There's plenty of install videos, including ours, on the Lowrider ST, like Softail stuff, but I guess nobody, including us, has ever really done an install video on one of these. And maybe they're out there, like, you know, tell me in the comments, yeah, there's a million of them. I just searched, I couldn't find one, so decided I would do one. The reason it's worth doing is because this isn't quite so simple as like a Dyna crash bar where you just unbolt your, pull out the plugs or take off your forward controls, bolt the thing on, and it's done. You've got this oil line to deal with, the voltage regulator to deal with. On the road glides, you have to replace the fairing bracket here. So it's a little bit more involved, and I figured it's worth doing an install video, so at least it's out there for reference. Even if not for you, maybe for me if I need it again in a couple of years if we don't do one of these for a while. So it's a great product. I've definitely installed it before, and you'll see the results. So, you know, they're pretty cool. The only thing I've really done here, obviously this bike is pretty well taken apart, and I actually was preparing to do a different video. We've got an HPI throttle body and tunnel ram about to go on this bike, and that was actually gonna be the next video, but I wanted to knock this crash bar out of the way before we did that. I'm not sure which order I'm gonna post the videos in, so maybe you've already seen that one, maybe not, but that stuff is all separate. But the only thing in terms of the crash bar that I've already done off camera before I was thinking about this was just remove the factory one, which, you know, hopefully is no big deal for you to understand that. You got one bolt on each side, and then you've got, where is it, down here, two that connect through the voltage regulator bracket, little screws there. So 4 bolts, and that thing comes off, and that's where we're at now. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on installing this. And the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna tackle the fairing support brackets first, just so we can get this bracket out of the way. So let me show you what those look like. Looks like this, really simple. There's different manufacturers that make these. You can obviously use whichever ones you want with whatever crash bar. But basically the way this works is you've got 2 holes here that are gonna thread into these bungs that actually already exist in the bottom of the fairing. And then this piece right here is gonna go to where your gas tank, the front forward gas tank mounts. So it's just gonna go right like that. So you've got a right side and a left side. So while you don't need to take the outer fairing off to put those on, you do, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, you definitely do need to remove the outer fairing in order to get this one off, because you got bolts in here somewhere, presumably, that we're gonna need to get access to. So first thing I'm gonna do is drop the bike down and remove the outer fairing. All right, so while removing the outer fairing is a very straightforward process on a road glide, there are about 9 million screws that hold this thing on. So we're gonna start up on the top with removing the windshield. After the windshield, I'm gonna go to the back side here and take the speaker grills off. All right, so with the speaker grills removed, you'll have access to 2 T30 bolts that are under here. So we'll get those removed. And what I like to do here is I just loosen these right now. I like these to be the last 2 I take off, because it's just nice to have something kind of easy to access that holds the fairing from falling when you undo the other fasteners. So we've got fasteners here holding the wind deflectors, and then a bolt on each side for the turn signal. So I'm gonna grab that turn signal one while I'm down here. All right, I'm gonna come back up here and remove the air dam. And with that out of the way, will give us access to the turn signal wires. So you're just gonna unclip these up here, All right, so next, grab a T25 screwdriver or wrench and take the fastener securing the wind deflector out. Okay, and for what it's worth, there are 2 screws on each of these. You don't need to take them both out. You only need to take the lower one out. The upper one only connects to the outer fairing. I'll show you that when I pull this off. Got those out of the way. We're pretty much ready to pull this off. So I'm just gonna come back and undo the T30s that I loosened up before. Okay. So now that this is not being held in by anything, you do want to keep a hand on it. Chances are it's probably not gonna fall, but better safe than sorry. So just slide this off. Okay, and here's what I was talking about on the wind deflectors. So you can see it back here. The upper screw doesn't go into the outer fairing, it only connects to the back side here. So this comes off and the wind deflectors stay in place. So we'll put this aside while we deal with getting these brackets off. All right, so with the outer fairing removed, we can see what we were after here, which was this 7/16 hex head. There's one on this side and obviously one on the other side. We're gonna take both of those out, which will disconnect the bracket from the fairing. And then we've got a socket head cap screw here that we will disconnect to disconnect the bracket from the bike. All right, so there's actually not just one cap screw here. There's a second one on the top, which it looks like is also securing the bracket. I wasn't sure, but it appears to be. So we're gonna go ahead and take that one out too. Okay, with those undone, go ahead and undo the fasteners on each side here. Okay, so we should be able to just pull the bracket down and slide it out. All right, so installing the brackets themselves is pretty straightforward. Just make sure that you've got the correct side on the correct side because you can flip them over and reverse them, and if you do, they won't line up. So we've got the right side bracket here. Like I mentioned before, you just got 2 fasteners that are gonna go into these bungs on the fairing. That's included with the brackets. And then this tab is gonna mount where your gas tank mounts. So obviously in our case, the tank is off, so I'm not gonna fasten those down, but I will use the screws for the gas tank to align this so that we're good to go. And I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about. So let me start by putting a little bit of Loctite onto each of these bolts here, and we'll get the bracket started. Okay, so I didn't mention the bracket, the holes in it for these bolts are, slotted. So it's got quite a bit of adjustment there. So what you would do if you had your tank on is you'd start all the fasteners and then tighten them all down evenly in order to get everything centered. In my case, I'm just gonna grab the bolts. I'm not gonna be able to tighten it down because these are the length of these are meant to go around on the outside of the tank. So if I tighten the bolt down all the way, I'm gonna squeeze it in too far. So I'm just gonna loosely put the bolt in here just to keep the bracket centered. All right, so with that bolt holding our alignment, I'm gonna snug these down. All right, so that's that. I'll do the same thing on the other side and we'll move on to getting the crash bar itself put on. Okay, so a couple things we gotta do here. The trick of this, or what makes it a little bit complicated, is that you have to get the crash bar in behind this hard oil line. And this hard oil line is welded onto the bracket that holds the voltage regulator and also the oil cooler. So all that's gonna kind of have to move out of the way. So in order to do that, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take this clip off that holds the clutch cable, put that aside. The next thing is I wanna undo this oil line. Before I do that though, I'm gonna go down to the bottom and disconnect the oil cooler where it mounts to the frame, and that will free up this whole thing to be able to move around. And then once we have that disconnected, I'll come up here and disconnect this oil line. All right, so in order to free up the voltage regulator, oil cooler, this whole assembly from the frame, there are two T30 or T40, I think. What do we got here? T40 fasteners going through the bracket into the frame that way. So I'm gonna get under here and disconnect both of those. I don't know why Harley uses so much Loctite on these things. About a pound of it just fell out onto the workbench. All right, so as you can see, this is free now. So all we're gonna have to do is disconnect this upper oil line here, and then this should be able to drop out of there. All right, well, I'm not sure if you can see me over there, but I figured the camera on that side and me on this side would be the easiest way to do this. So the first thing I'm gonna do, just to avoid spilling as much oil as possible, or as little oil as possible, I'm just gonna put a little hose clamp on the top here that hopefully will minimize the amount of oil that's gonna come out. And then I've got a set of pliers here. Well, I might have to come to the other side and show you this tool. You can get this at like, Napa or, someplace like that. They're just little hose clamp pliers, but you can use a regular set of pliers too. Okay, drop that clamp down. Now I should be able to just pull that oil line off. Sometimes they can be a little bit stuck. I'm not sure if this one will be or not. Yeah. There we go. So once you kind of crack it free from it's like, a little bit of, I don't know, corrosion or gunk that just builds up on there. So I'm gonna pull that off and, well, pouring some oil out, but yeah, well, that minimized it anyway. Got a little puddle there. Grab a rag here. All right. So hopefully we've got the room we need here. We'll be able to slide our crash bar in and then bolt this all back up in place. Just grab another rag to clean up that little bit of oil I spilled, and then we'll grab the crash bar and get it on. All right, so we're ready to go ahead and get this slid in place. So I've got the hardware that came with the crash bar kind of here and prepared. You've got a new bolt for the bottoms and just a bolt and washer, put some Loctite on those. And then for the top, you've got a bolt, a lock nut, and two washers. And then it's got two long quarter 20, these quarter 20s, yeah, quarter 20 bolts. Presumably that's gonna be to reattach the voltage regulator oil line bracket there. So I guess let's go ahead and get this fitted up in place and see what we can do. There we go. All right. Feels like a step in the right direction. All right. So I guess I'm going to start with one of these bolts here. And let that sit. Go start one of the other ones on this side. All right. Cool. All right, I'm not gonna tighten these up. I'm just gonna put a couple of turns on them just so we can hold it in place. And then what I wanna do is get this top fastener connected. So this one's gonna be a little tricky because we've gotta get a nut back here and get a wrench on it. So I think probably like a quarter drive socket with a swivel on it. This looks like a 9/16. Let me see what I can do by getting this put on. I don't know. don't know how you're supposed to get your hand in there. Although I guess I could put the bolt in from this side. That's certainly easier. And then put our nut and washer on. Yeah, that's not bad. Now, but the question is, can I get a wrench in there for that bolt? I don't know. I don't know. Find out. All right, well, wasn't elegant, but we got it on. So I found the easiest way to do this, at least for me, was to put the bolt in through the inside of the frame because you got gravity working in your favor. Then put the lock nut on the outside. And I used a stubby Allen driver on a swivel or a wobble, and then a 9/16 wrench on the outside. So that seemed to do it. So let's see what I can do here. I think what I'm gonna do is tighten down these lower mounts. At this point, we should be able to get this reconnected and get our oil line reconnected. I'm gonna start with the oil line so we can minimize the dripping that's taking place here. So just pop this back on here. And grab my little clamp tool. Got some new hardware here for the upper mount of the voltage regulator. Get that started. Sorry that the angles on this are not great. There's just not a lot I can do to make that any better for you. That 5/32 hex. All right, I'm gonna get these almost to the point where they're gonna be snugged down, and I'm gonna get the bottom reconnected just to make sure everything's lined up before I tighten anything. So, got our bottom, these T30s. I'm just gonna get all this old Loctite off here, put a little new Loctite on, reconnect them. All right, with the lowers tightened down, come here and tighten up the uppers. All right, well, that's pretty much it. We just got a little bit of housekeeping left to do here. I've got the clutch cable retainer bracket deal to go back on. Just slide that into place. And we'll just drop the bike down and put the fairing back on. I will do that on camera and we'll get this totally wrapped up. You know, if you want to stop watching now, this is basically it. But if you want to stick around till the end, we'll get the fairing put back on and we'll catch you on the next video after that. So thanks for watching. All right, so that's the complete install on the Bung King Bagger Highway Peg crash bar. I think like a lot of Bung King's products, it's a really good value. Their stuff is not expensive compared to a lot of the other stuff on the market. It looks good, and all their stuff is really functional too. We offer crash protection for the bike, but also a really nice spot to put your feet up when you're riding. And the installation, well, I think a little bit intimidating perhaps if you don't know what you have to do in the order of the steps. It's really not that big a deal. I would definitely say this would be much more of a pain in the ass if you were trying to do this on the kickstand on the ground and trying to get up under there and deal with those bolts. But hopefully, if you're trying to do this yourself, this video helps to at least let you know what the steps are so you don't get, kind of screwed up by this oil line being in the way and thinking you got the wrong part. So in any event, I hope that's helpful. And of course, if you want to buy one of these, they're available on our website, ironanchorcycles.com. Go check it out if you haven't already. And we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.